From melting our hearts with his beautiful voice to singing classics that are relevant even today, Elvis Presley was definitely a heartthrob. But did you know there was a dark side to him too? Yes, that's right. As it turns out, everything is definitely not what it seems, especially when it comes to the king. And we're here to discuss just that. Heads up if you've been mesmerized by Elvis Presley, not just his voice or even his songs, but also his slick back hair and those beautiful eyes. Well, turns out that those eyes had a storm brewing inside them. In fact, the king of rock and roll left quite a lot of disasters behind that threatened to taint his legacy. You might not know this, but he actually met his wife when she was 14 years old. Now, we're all aware about the love story that was Elvis and Priscilla's relationship.
And watching the performances, I mean, I was there, sitting there, watching many of these shows. So it is as if I'm there, watching it in person back in the day, but of course in present time. And I think the audience feels the same.
He even wrote her many beautiful songs that are still sung to this day. But here's the thing, the singer had a shocking age gap of 10 years with his partner who was only 14 years of age at the time. Elvis was serving in Germany in 1959, and while the nature of this relationship was highly illegal, it still didn't stop him from pursuing her. In 1962, though, Presley moved back to the US, but still kept in contact with Priscilla over the phone. They tied the knot when she was 22 years old. Now, I know some of you might try to find a happy ending here, but here's the thing, there isn't one, at least not for Priscilla. You see, the two of them were never really exclusive when it came to their relationship. This meant that the king retained a promiscuous lifestyle. Of course, his wife was not okay with this arrangement, and in fact, his habits eventually led to their divorce after around 6 years of marriage.
Well, it was difficult, especially moving into Graceland. He already had his inner circle. And of course, they embraced me, but I never realized that was it. I mean, he didn't really go out. He didn't go out. He didn't really like eating in restaurants because people would take pictures of him, and he didn't want to be shot with eating his, putting fork in his mouth. And
a lot of people think that Elvis going after an underage girl was basically a one-time thing, but shockingly, it wasn't. At the height of his fame, the singer used his power to manipulate and influence young fans. This happened pretty much every time he went on tour. The writer of Elvis Presley: A Southern Life, Joel Williamson, highlighted these incidents in his book. He claimed that before he got hitched, Elvis once took a group of 3 girls with him on tour. They were around 14 years of age, and one distinct description about them stands out is that they were up for pillow fights, tickling, and kissing. Yikes. That's a major red flag, don't you think? Oh, and that's not all. Apparently, he also had a very young girlfriend when he was 19 years old. His partner at that time was 15 to be exact. It is claimed that the singer was obsessed with the idea of virginity. Even later, the huge age gap between him and some of his partners after Priscilla raised quite a lot of eyebrows. It seems that his striking behavior and personality were his main weapons. Speaking of weapons, he actually used one in real time and fired a gunshot at his fiancée. Alright, now that sounds alarming. There has been quite a lot of talk about the singer's behavioral patterns, but what's the most surprising thing about him is the fact that he had a tendency to get violent. The incident in question took place when he was 41 years old. Elvis met Ginger Alden when she was only 20. Cue the raised eyebrows, and that's not all. He was horrible towards her. Sources revealed that during their time together, the two would argue constantly.
I wrote down all of my memories shortly after Elvis passed away. It was just my way of holding on. I wanted to hold on and not forget. And time went on. I went forward with my life. I worked. I got married, had my son.
Sometimes things got so bad that she'd try to leave the house. At one point, he told the household staff to let the air out of her tires so she wouldn't be able to drive away, and on another occasion when she managed to drive away, he allegedly fired a bullet at her. The two were engaged at the time. They never really got the chance to walk down the aisle, and if you ask me, Ginger dodged a bullet there. Literally. That's not all for his dark side, though. Reports suggest that he even tried to drug Priscilla. Okay, now all that I'm seeing is red. said, Elvis's battle with addiction is something that managed to seep through his near-perfect exterior and hit the headlines. What's concerning about this is that he would give his wife doses of amphetamines to keep her up during their sexual encounters. Priscilla later opened up about these encounters, saying that they were pretty elaborate and that sometimes they even took photographs using a Polaroid camera. Most of these photos were returned to her at the time of the singer's death, but according to her, some of them are still out there. While the drugging of his spouse is a major problem, Priscilla made sure to mention that nothing perverted ever took place in their moments of passion. That's all for his partners.
And to get some treatment for his drug dependency. What kinds of thoughts went through your mind as you saw that scene, Priscilla?
Memories. It was getting more and more frightening as time went by, where he just was like rebelling.
It's time we move on to other aspects of his life. Turns out the king has serious allegations of racism against him. Quincy Jones, in an interview, told everyone that there was a reason why he had never worked with Elvis. That's right, he refused all opportunities for collaboration because apparently the king of rock and roll was a racist. He narrated the experience, saying that he was once writing for Tommy Dorsey back in the 50s and Elvis walked in. That's when Tommy allegedly said, "I don't want to play with him. He's a racist mother effer." Yikes. Some even accuse the man of appropriating black culture and then repackaging it for the general public. Apart from that, though, there's no clear evidence of him making racist comments. Moving on to his career, when you think of Elvis, you think of his voice. You think of the beautiful songs that he sang, and maybe, just maybe, you picture him playing a guitar in the mix. Well, here's the thing. The apparent king never wrote a song in his life. And that's not all. He didn't even know how to play the guitar. So if that one scene in Forrest Gump had you believing otherwise, then I'm here to tell you the truth. He just lugged the instrument around as a prop, or maybe even a brace. But could he play it? Well, not at all. Apparently, he only wore it to look more competent. What's more, a guitar wasn't the only thing Elvis carried around. He was also a fan of guns. Reports came out revealing information about the king's gun collection, and from the looks of it, he had so many that he could support a mini army. At the time of his death, Elvis had 40 guns. This vast collection included a lot of rifles, and a machine gun. Yes, you heard that right. In the 70s, he became super paranoid and would go as far as bringing the gun to the stage with him. Apparently, he would keep them stuffed in his shoes. People visiting the king in his dressing room also reported seeing loaded automatic pistols just lying around. Looks like the king didn't think much about them. To him, they were basically toys. Now, he's got the guns, so what was stopping him from impersonating a police officer? Apparently nothing, because that's what he used to do. Even though it's considered to be a crime, according to his wife, Elvis had a collection of police badges. And if he saw anyone speeding, he'd just slap one on, put a siren on his car, and go after his perp just to give him a warning. Wow, that's wild. And that's a wrap on Elvis Presley's dark side.